Good morning. We are here with the Women's Mortgage Network podcast, a space where every woman across generations and every role in the mortgage industry can connect, grow, and get real. Whether you're just starting out or you're running the show, your voice matters here. We're not here to play small. We're here to make waves together. I'm Nicole Ahles with Edge Home Finance, and I'm also on the Women's Mortgage Committee. I'm here today with Liz Rich. How are you, Liz?
Hey, Nicole. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm honored to join you and get to have this conversation.
I am too. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So let's talk. Let's just get right in. Let's talk about last year. Last year, you were able to help 65 families get into homes. And I want to talk a little bit about that and where you're at this year too. How are you doing this year? Like, where are you at?
Yeah, so this year to date, I've closed 60 transactions. So I'm ahead of where I was last year. And it's really, the numbers to me are important, but really it's that service. I just kind of be transparent. My prayer when I got into this industry was I was transitioning out of being a classroom teacher. I taught public school for 12 years, and I really used that as my mission field. And so coming into mortgage, I knew I wanted to have a mission and a heart for Jesus, and I knew I could do that with mortgage. So my prayer through this is, Lord, send me the people that I'm supposed to help and close the doors that I'm not supposed to walk through. And so really it's a mission field for him, and having 60 transactions this year it's just a reflection of where I am, where I'm supposed to be.
So you have always been of service to people. So that's probably, and you've dealt with, what grade were you teaching?
When I left, I was teaching kindergarten.
Okay, so you're used to chaos. So that probably transitioned into this business really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it earlier today. Working with lenders and mortgage loan officers, it's like herding cats, and that's no different than teaching kindergarten in August when they're, some of them are still 4 and they're with big kids. So, yeah.
Well, our past life, experience can also roll into what we do in the future to help us, get through what we're doing. So how did you get into the mortgage business?
Well, it was COVID. We went out for spring break that year, and we didn't know what we were coming back to. And then when we realized what we were coming back to, teaching kindergarten on Zoom was just as fun as it sounds. It was a nightmare. And because we had this opportunity to be remote, we had some friends that had a beach house, and they were like, let's go to the beach house, different scenery for the kids. And at that point, you could not rent them out. Only owners could use them. So we went down there, and my friend's husband wound up coming, and he owned a mortgage brokerage. And he was like, I just had the conversation with him. Hey, Josh, how are you able to have this flexibility? What do you do? How are you so successful? And he's like, Liz, you're a licensed teacher. Just get your mortgage license. And literally that was the conversation. I don't think Josh actually realized that when we went back to Austin, like I was going to do that. So in the midst of this COVID debacle, teaching kindergarten on Zoom, I literally started my classes as soon as I got back and finished out the school year, went into the summer, and I didn't want to do the big goodbye teacher thing. So day 2 of summer, I resigned and called Josh, and the joke was like, hey, you hired yourself. And then, 2 years in, I transitioned over to Edge Home Finance.
Okay. Now, was that retail or was that on the broker side when you first started?
We were non-delegated, so correspondent. So a little bit of both. It just, you learn through the transition, and it was a really good opportunity. I had, the Sergios, the Joshes. I had, 30 years of experience in these 5 humans that just poured into me and taught me everything I know. And so between that and just having a heart to learn, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm very much so always going to be an educator and challenge myself to learn new things. And so I just had a really great opportunity. And I mean, Annie too, like, we learned together. We had each other's back. So
Did you and Annie start at the, so Annie's also a broker as well with Edge. Did you start together or did you meet her once you got into the industry, like over to Edge and into the industry?
we started 2 weeks apart, literally. We
Okay.
were this company we went to work for, they did not hire new loan officers. You had to be a veteran to get in. And somehow God ordained like both of us coming in at the exact same time. And it was like, we just stuck to like two peas in a pod. We knew we needed each other, and so did God. So it was a really great, friendship that started. Little did we know we would be where we're at today.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty incredible to be where you're at with just 5 years in the industry. I mean, that's awesome. So let's talk about how you got to where you're at. Like, what did you do to find business and grow your clientele once you got going?
That's a really good question. So this is kind of a three-part answer. So first of all, I grew up in Austin, Texas. I had lived there for 40 years. I had the same friends I did since kindergarten and just relational. Then being a teacher, everybody in the community already knew me. They knew my work ethic with their children. So transitioning from being deeply rooted in the community and having those relationships in the midst of a refi boom, that's where I went hard in the paint for those refis and just calling on my database of people I knew. But at the same time, because I had been where I was at for so long, I just started calling people that I knew that were realtors and asking for the business. But then I also went cold calling. Like, I knew I could count on some transactions from the people that I had already established these relationships with, but I also recognized that I had to grow. So I started calling listing agents and asking them if I could come join their open houses. And then once I got a yes, I started door knocking with those realtors. So that would be
Oh,
like my
wow.
third part. We flyered a neighborhood for 2 years every other month, and it was like 1,300 homes. And so, like, literally up and down the hills, like flyering neighborhood. So it was a hustle, not gonna lie. Like, I had to work at it.
And what was like, was there a huge success rate from that? Or what was your experience, as far as how that worked out?
My first year in mortgage, my first full year. So I started in August of 2020. And I think I did like 9 transactions from August to December. So I did okay. But 2021, I I closed 20 million. So, and I won rookie of the year for the company. So yes, I mean, it was very intentional. And then, at that point, you don't know what you're doing in your first year. So I worked from 6 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning and just poured everything. There was definitely some, I didn't mother my children well, or I wasn't a great wife, but I had to dig in to see the fruits of the labor now. And now that I have that behind me, but I don't know if everybody's willing to work that hard, Nicole. Like, you get what you put in. And I want to make sure that's clearly communicated. If you're willing to work hard and go the extra mile, there's nothing that hard work won't get you, right? Like, if you're willing to do it, you commit, there's no option for failure. Like, I'm doing this, I'm walking away from the career that I never thought I would do anything other than teaching, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 100%. And so failure wasn't an option. And I think when you have that heart and mindset, it hits a little bit different.
Yeah. Did you know in your head, like, this, I have to work really hard to get this business built up right now, but then once that gets going, I can, pull a little more balance so that you felt that you were, able to be the wife and mother that have always been. Like, you had mentioned you felt that you were neglecting that part a little bit. Was there, in your mind, were you like, okay, this is just for the short term, and then you got to where you needed and you're like, all right, I can completely plug back into everything?
Well, that's, some of the best advice I ever got getting into it was you have to trust the process. And so once I was able to build the business, then I could have an LOA. And, thankfully I've had the same processing team since my very beginning. They're with me over at Edge now as a third party processor. So once you get the business built up, then it becomes finding the right support. And because if I'm going to put my name out and you're an extension of me, I need somebody with the same work ethic, the same, just even how they communicate in an email. Like, you're an extension of me. You're going to communicate like I would. And so having high expectations and hiring and firing and not being scared to have hard conversations, you do have to have a little bit of thick skin and let people know, hey, it's not working out, and that's okay. If you're a B employee here, then you need to be let go so you can be an A employee somewhere else. So it's just like perspective is everything, and you have to fail forward. If it's not working, you try something new. You get yourself back up, and so it's been trial and error, and just grateful that, like, you have to pray, or at least for me, that I'm very convicted by my faith. And I just know, like, God's going to bring me the people I'm supposed to have in my life. And if they're not, then, that's okay too.
Well, I love that. So you've got a great team around you to help support you and balance that out a little bit. Are you still working with the same realtors on a regular basis that you went out and did the groundwork with and the door knocking?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I just took 3 of them out to UWM. Like, those people, the broker of that industry, of that brokerage, we graduated high school together, and she, like, her whole team uses me. My very best friend that I've literally grown up with, she's a broker. I get her team, so there's been, I would say I have very loyal realtors, which when you cold call and you build that way, it is harder to have loyal realtors. But when they are truly your friends and you enjoy answering their phone calls and doing life with them, you get a different kind of referral partner. So then that, I'd like to kind of touch on that. Like,
yeah,
not every referral partner is going to be a good partner. I've definitely fired realtors that are, they use you, they call you on weekends and late at night. And then as soon as they're pre-qualified, they take them straight to the builder, and you lose that transaction. There's repetitive behavior in people. And when you start recognizing that and respecting your time, you look for different types of partnerships, and very grateful to be able to have the partnerships I have. And I think it's okay when you start recognizing behaviors in people, and if they're taking advantage of you, of cutting those people out. You got to protect your time. You're valuable. You're not a discount lender. Your reputation precedes you, and that's okay to say it's just not working anymore.
So finding a true, genuine friendship and relationship, is there anything that you do in those relationships that you think that make them more like authentic, or that you do to create the relationship that you want?
Well, if I'm thinking about, like, Shelton Property Group, they're Buffini agents. And so if you know that coaching, they're very much so work your database, and they host events for their sphere of influence. So I very much so sponsor all of their events, and I show up, and whatever they need, it is a true partnership. And same with I have 2 really big brokers that I get a majority of my business from. So same thing with them. And then, Nicole, answering your phone.
Yeah, that's
you would
important.
be surprised at what answering your phone does. I know UWM is a great partner of ours, and they preach answering the phone. And I can tell you that when you're available and you answer your phone, people know they can depend on you. And when you have transactions that are the biggest amount of money somebody will spend in their life, you have to be dependable.
Yeah, I on my end know what that's like, because my husband, Tom, you know, we'll be mid conversation about something, and it can be something important. And he's like, I got to take this. And at
Yeah.
first in our marriage, it was really weird for me. And I felt, a little like, okay, is this disrespectful? And then as I got to understand the industry, and he sort of explained to me, like, if you don't answer your phone, they're going to call somebody else
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to lose this deal. I'm like, okay, well, I can pause a conversation for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. And then we kind of circle back to like where we were when he gets off the phone. And so, I've learned the importance of that and seen it firsthand. Like, I have a front row seat to a lot of mortgage stuff and how mortgage brokers operate. And
Yeah.
it's a very interesting business. However, on the flip side of that, we can take a vacation in the middle of the week and he's not locked down somewhere, because it can, he can answer his phone anywhere in the world now with the way that technology is. And
Yeah.
so even though in that 5 minutes I'm sort of sacrificing that conversation and time, I get actually kind of more time with him, so to speak, than, if he was at a job all day where he was locked down and couldn't take personal calls and, couldn't be flexible, or, I've got to go run here and, Camille just called me and she needs a ride and I'm stuck. Can you run real quick? And he can do that. So like I feel like the business provides, even though it's demanding and you do have to, but then when you're not, you get a little more flexibility than a regular job. So that's kind of neat. I like that. And I do like the answer your phone, because it makes a difference.
You have to. I
You
mean,
do. You really do. So what are the most important things I would say that you've done to build longevity and success in what you're doing? I know you live in a very rural area in Texas, and so the city that you live in has very few people to source from. Like, how do you gain business to be able to help 65 plus families a year?
yeah, I mean, the town I live in, our county is about 3,000 people for the whole county, and my town is under 150 people. So there's not a lot of business to pick up here. But what that does provide is everybody knows everybody and word of mouth. So building in the Texas Hill Country has been easy per se, just because, again, reputation is everything. First impressions are everything. And then I'm only about an hour and a half, about 90 miles or so from Austin. It's still close enough for me to go. So, like I said, my phone is my lifeline, because I'm not physically there a lot in the locations of my main realtor partners. I have to be on the phone. And I got to the point where you just have to realize, like, there comes a point when that coffee appointment is not your time best spent unless you're in that area. I mean, we are licensed in the whole state, and like Texas, it's not like living in the New England states where you can get to 4 states in 15 minutes. Like, I'm on the phone. If I'm in the car, I'm taking phone calls. I'm, utilizing my time the best I can. And really, networking can be just phone calls of, hey, Nicole, how are you doing today? Pick up the phone, call somebody, send an email. Something else I do that's probably not very common is I do have an assistant that writes handwritten notes to my whole database. I send personalized birthday cards, loan anniversary. And I know we have partners that will send it, but there's something about a handwritten note and a millennial that they just don't even like. That was not something that they grew up with. I mean, I grew up with my grandma writing me cards. That trade is gone. So when you get a handwritten note, it's unbelievable, the phone calls and messages I get from just that little act of kindness. And then I do farm my database too. Like so I get a lot of referrals from past clients.
Okay, that's great. I mean, a handwritten note goes a long way. I even on my Christmas cards, I handwrite out the address. I could have them in a database printed, but I just feel like it's a little more of a personal touch to it. And when I receive a handwritten thank you or something like that, it means a lot to me. It just feels it feels more personal and it feels more intentional. And I know that that took somebody time to write that, which means that I was, special in their world for the minute that they wrote that card out and took the time in their day to do that. So I think that's huge. I would imagine that has a big impact. Is there anything else in your daily routine that you do that you want to touch on as far as, your systems and your operations?
Well, systems and operations. So I like I said, I do have a loan officer assistant. So she comes in, she pre-approves, gets the files turned. 24 hours is really all it should take to get a standard file in. Now, if you're doing a manual VA or you have something complicated in a tax return or whatever, it might be 36, 48 hours, but fast. I mean, being fast is everything. So quick turn times and processes. And then I come in, I pop in, I review it, make sure income's correct. Those things, I put the final touches on it, structure, do whatever needs to, and then off to the pre-approval. And I have templates. So like my template email asking for the application, I list out, do you want me to opt you out of the trigger leads? Do you want to do it yourself? I have a form for them to sign off on. I, in there, touch documents based upon our phone call that we had, our initial consultation. And then I have a template for my pre-approval linked with a YouTube video. Like I'm very detail oriented in that. And then off to the letter and shopping. And I very much so a system is come back and let's work the payment. So whatever that house address is, let's pull taxes. Let's look at it. Do we need to look at when what's the appraised value on the CAD? Because property taxes in Texas are crazy. Like,
Okay.
it's not, we don't have state income tax. So it's made up for in property taxes. And you might have one house that's a 1.5% tax rate, and across the street it's 3%. So, your payment could change $400 by just a house. So we work every payment, and I spend a lot of time just like fear. I do a lot of first-time home buyers and down payment assistance loans. So it's a different conversation unless you're used to doing like investor loans. Like that's more transactional. Mine are a lot of first-time home buyers.
But it sounds like you make it pretty easy for them. You provide a lot of information and step by step through the process in your emails, even with, like you said, links and to YouTube on how, things work. I would imagine that helps them tremendously, especially since you are working with a lot of first time home buyers and they've never done that before. And it's buying a home is the biggest investment and probably the largest financial commitment somebody can make. And that, I would imagine, that feels scary to the majority of people. And having somebody there to, make that easy and give them the information that they need, I'm sure that goes a long way with referrals as well. And you said you do experience a lot of referrals from your clients to other people. So obviously you're making them feel good, and you're making I would assume, pretty easy for them to get through.
It's that teacher's heart, Nicole, right? Like you don't know what you don't know. And so one document that I'm happy to share with anybody, I put together, when you're doing your first consultation, it's a lot of rinse and repeat. Like those conversations you can get redundant in because the questions are the questions, and where people's concerns are, you see the trends across every conversation. So I put together a document. It's called the top 25 most asked questions. And sometimes people want to ask questions, but they don't know how to formulate the question, or they think they might know something, but they've had misinformation along the way. So I send that out as just like, I'm going to send you this, get your brain thinking. Maybe it's going to spark another question. Maybe it's going to answer some questions. But really at the end of the day, your goal walking away from this, yes, it's to be a homeowner, but it's also to understand the financial responsibility that comes along with it. That way you can build generational wealth, and just coming at it as a heart of teaching and really helping educate. It's a different relationship. You go back to the basics. It's all about relationships and actually caring about people.
That's brilliant. I love that. That is great.
Share it.
Yeah. I would think that that is absolutely like a helping piece for your clients, just to, I would love that if I were a client. So we've talked about what works. Is there anything that you can think of that you've done that didn't work and then you had to kind of pivot on, that you can think of?
Oh gosh, I'm sure that there's things that didn't work. I think being too salesy and just over promising and under delivering, I mean, that's never going to work. But honestly, you kind of got me stumped there. I'm trying to think of something that hasn't worked. You know me well enough to know that what you see is what you get, and I'm not going to try to deviate from something that I'm not comfortable with. So I think I've just kind of always been myself, and whether you like me or it's not a good fit, I mean, I just kind of stuck to like care about people, show up, be consistent. Yeah. That's kind of my secret sauce.
I love it. Well, there's not a lot to not like about you, so I can see why that's the answer. So one thing I find unique about you and you shared with me is your signature line in all of your emails. Do you want to share that and tell me what that means to you?
Okay, so I've kind of touched on it a little bit, as I am a very spiritual person. This is my mission field. I can help people and love people well, no matter where I'm at. So part of loving God and loving others is being bold. And so in my signature line, I have a Bible verse that is near and dear to my heart. Actually, it came from a client I helped. She sent me a thank you card and like a little gift. And in it, she's like, I really prayed over a Bible verse that makes me think of you. And when I was like, oh my gosh, it hit me hard. And I was like, if she's seeing this in me and I'm not, stating it, why can't I be bold and put it in my signature line and help other people maybe connect the dots if they don't have that spiritual awareness that she has? See, sometimes you don't recognize what other people see in you. And so when that came across, it changed me. And so I put that in Colossians 3:23. So whatever you do, work at it with all your heart and soul, not for working for man, but working for the Lord. And so I really do come at it at the heart of working for God's purpose and being authentic. And like I said, what you see is what you get.
I love that. That's really special that you have that. And I love that you work and you do the right things for the right reasons. And it's not always monetarily based. It's based to help people. And that gives you a level of satisfaction that's equal to bringing in a paycheck. Obviously, we need to bring in a paycheck so that we have, a roof over our head and food and can provide our kids in their very expensive sports these days and all of those things. But also, like, if money can't just be your drive, because I know for me personally, that doesn't give me the satisfaction at the same as if I'm actually helping a person and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really, this means the world to me. And I love that that is what drives you. And I think that when you're driven by those kind of things and not necessarily numbers or money, I think that just follows suit just naturally, like, unintentionally, because you're just like, I want to help as many people as I can. And because that makes me feel good. And then the rest just falls into place. So I love that.
I think like the baseline when you're teaching after 12 years, Texas does not pay teachers well. I think I made $52,000 after 12 years of teaching. So coming out of teaching, the baseline, because I mean, I have a husband in corporate America. Like I never really had to work, but I've always wanted to. So the baseline was, if you make 52,000, nothing changes. You can do what you were doing before. Well, girl, that's not what you make. We are very well compensated. If you have to go skinny on a deal, go skinny on the deal. Right? Do right by that person, and you'll get 2 or 3 referrals from it. You might not see it right away, but it's treasures, like seed planting. And then through the follow-up of going that extra mile, those handwritten cards, those phone calls, those birthday videos, those text messages, all those things, you will build a database. You just have to be intentional about what that looks like for you.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of people, they get greedy. They won't go skinny on the deal to help the client, or they want, it's not, the long game for them is not to build the relationship, realizing that they can get multiple different transactions out of this one person if you care about them and you do it right, and you make sure that you're giving them the best deal that they can. And I see that the people that are not making as much money necessarily up front on some loans actually end up making more money than the person that didn't cut back and give them the best deal, because they're not getting the referrals. And it was like, would you rather have this be a one-time transaction, or would you rather have this potentially, I mean, people, what's the average, that people buy homes or refinance, through their, lifetime?
I would say maybe 3 to 7. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
So like, if you build that relationship correctly, you have potential to work that person again another 3 to 7 times across your career. And likely they'll refer you, probably 10 people across your career. I mean, that is such like, looking at the long play versus, what's right in front of my face as I'm doing today, I think is a huge business strategy as far as longevity in this business.
Well, and I think you also have to utilize social media too. I mean, I don't think I've touched on that. I'm very intentional with my social media. I'm not going to be just throwing random stuff up there. I never talk about politics on my social media. 50% of people are going to agree with you, and the other 50% aren't. So why cut out 50% of the other side? Like, just know. And I have 3 things I post about. I post about my kids, I post about business, and I post about religion. And it's an ongoing story trend of, here are my 3 things. So it builds brand recognition. Did I say that wrong? Brand recognition. And then I have a billboard too. So there's just little things you can do throughout your reach, I guess you could call it, to continue to build what you want people to remember you as. It's that legacy.
Yeah, I like that. I do like not talking about, politics. We are in a time where that talking about that just never turns out the way that you hope.
Yeah.
And, everyone has the right to their own beliefs. And I think, discussing that on a public forum can be a very slippery slope. And like you said, you can potentially be eliminating 50% of people who would want to work. And it's just it's not necessary. Like, I don't think that to be yourself and you can have your beliefs and you can have your convictions, but they don't need to be political. They can be, you can express those in ways that are not going to, create a division and create, drama and conflict. And I think that's a really smart business move.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be known for politics. I want to be known for mortgage. And if I'm posting about that and that plants a seed and that's what somebody remembers, I failed. My mission here is to originate loans. So why would I talk about anything other than I'm a mom? These are what my kids do. This is what I I love Jesus and I'm going to talk about that. If that turns you off, okay, well then maybe that's polarizing there, but at least it's a good, solid, strong message. But no, I'm not ever going to talk about politics. I'm never going to do that. I'm going to stick to mortgages, and I want people to know that I'm the mortgage girl. So,
I love that. Very smart. So what should your clients know about like the benefits of working with a broker versus going to like a retail bank or even other people, other, retail lenders in the industry? What, why do you like being on the broker side, and what advantages do you think it has for the client and even yourself?
well, I mean, I do think we're faster, cheaper, and better. I mean, that is the tagline of the broker. And so kind of just backing up to that question of how and where I started at. I started at a non-delegated bank and or channel, whatever you want to call it. And I had a rate sheet come across my desk, and I was like, how is this a thing? Like, where did these rates come from? So I logged into Loan Sifter and I'm looking and I'm pricing. I'm like, this bank isn't showing up in Loan Sifter the way I'm seeing it. How is this rate what it is? And so it opened, that veil came off my eyes, and I was like, oh, there's a front end hold. There's not only a front end hold, now I've been sold a 75-25 comp plan. And so they're getting some on the front and on the back. And that's how it is with, if you're not on the broker channel, there's holdbacks. And you, instead of giving that flexibility and that pricing incentive to the client, you're paying for brick and mortar, you're paying for W-2 employees, you're paying for all that. So instead of giving it to the client, you're giving it to the company. And so once I realized what that looked like, I didn't feel like it was ethical anymore. Like, it really struck me as like, what am I doing? And at that point, I actually got, yeah, it was a really hard transition once I realized how that, maybe I was naive to think that it was any other way, but being a loan officer in the industry and seeing that's all it took, was to see what the pricing difference was. And where I'm pricing here, no wonder I'm processing loans to give them away to somebody else. Like, I've never lost a loan due to pricing. I've never lost a loan due to closing costs. I have kept my clients, and I have the flexibility to really place a loan with a unique situation with a lender that thrives on that scenario type. I mean, at Edge, we have 186, 200 different lenders that we're signed up with. So there's really not a loan that we can't do. And if there is that scenario, well, let me help you find somebody who's ethical for it. But I mean, that's like small lot loans. Like, being in the country, I do come across like somebody wants an acre. That I'm not your best fit for that. There's, other banks, but really pricing and speed, accuracy, being able to cherry pick the best spot for it. It's unlimited.
Yeah, well, you only know what you know until you know different. So, and I commend you for making that switch, because it's not always easy to switch over, and there's a lot, you have to relearn some things. And anytime you make change in life, whatever it is, it's always uncomfortable and a little scary. But it sounds like you had a pretty good support system when you came over, of people who were willing to share with you what they had been doing and help you. Is there anything else, like as far as like your preferred lenders? What do your preferred lenders do that make you want to keep coming back and working with them?
I mean, that's trial and error. So I really do circulate through my top 5. Like, I'm a loyal person, tried and true. I would say the first thing is getting correct answers to questions. If you're reading a guideline and you're just wanting to make sure your interpretation is correct, having an account executive that actually knows the guidelines, like having a strong AE is the difference between make or break. So I love my AEs. Then speed of underwriting. Like if I go look at your website and you say your initial underwrite turn times are 24 to 48 hours, and here we are a week later and I'm not underwritten, like that's a problem. So making sure those turn times are fast. And then once you get through the underwriting, is the closer who is assigned is always going to be, it's like going out to a fancy restaurant and you have this beautiful meal and then dessert comes and there's a cockroach in your dessert. Like you never want to leave with a bad taste in your mouth. So having a strong closing team to make sure docs are out on time, docs out are on early, that their documents are correct and we're not having to make last minute changes. So I love my strong closers. Also answering phones, right? Like I think we've kind of beat that one dead. It's like you have you need your underwriters to answer the phone and not be conditioned to death. So I love New Res. I love Windsor. I love UWM. I love Change. You know, and those are probably my top four. I'll enter in a couple others here and there, but I'm pretty loyal to them because they're very strong.
Yeah. Outside of new purchases, are there any other loans that you tend to do more specialize in?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty purchase heavy. I've done some refis this year. Not as many, like kind of what I was saying with property taxes here. Taxes are still kind of high, but we've also, with the growth through COVID, Austin prices went through the roof. And now we're in this season of prices coming back down. So there's a lot of people that don't have the equity to do the refi right now. And that's kind of been the hardest or most challenging part in the Central Texas market is values have come down and loan amounts, you know, they're not paying a bunch on principal in the first few years. So they're having to bring money to refi. So I haven't done as many refis. I'm pretty purchase heavy this year.
That's awesome. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything that you wanted to touch on that we didn't cover today that you think is important for anyone in the business to know?
Yeah, if you're in mortgage right now and you're somewhere where you don't have the support, there's a lot of support over here at Edge. If you need a mentor or just somebody to help walk through a question, please reach out, whether that's the intent of making a switch or just trying to better yourself or networking. We are a family. It's women helping women. So I feel free to reach out. I'll help answer your question. And, you know, just you're not alone. That's going to be the biggest thing that I can offer is if you're in a scenario, if you want my list of my 25 most answered questions, if you want my email templates, I'm happy to share all of that with y'all.
I love that. And I know a lot of people at Edge do help other people in the industry that are not with us, with not intentions of recruiting, but just being helpful. Because I would imagine when you're helping somebody else, that's also sparking in your head, you know, having to think, you know, how to answer that question for them, and you learn as you're teaching them as well. So I love that you're so willing to be open to helping anyone in the industry, whether, you know, they're on your team specifically or just, you know, a fellow broker in the community. And also, you know, being a part of this women's mortgage network where we're just really trying to connect all of the women in the industry across the board, no matter who you work with, just so that, you know, women feel like they have a safe place to be supported, to have questions answered, not to have, you know, competition, so to speak, to really feel just connected. And I know, like, a couple years ago when I was just getting into the industry, not being an LO, I would go to an event and sometimes I didn't know if the person worked for Edge or if they worked for someone else. And quite honestly, it didn't matter to me. I
Right.
was talking to that person as a person and I
Right.
liked who they were as a person and I enjoyed the conversation, and it didn't matter to me who they, were with or whatever. And I think when you think that way, the relationships that you build, because, people from other companies can share things as well with us that, if we just help each other get better, and it's not of like a who's who and who works with who, and, I really think that the possibilities are endless for the relationships and for growth, for not only in the industry but for women as well, because I know that women have now taken a pretty large percentage of the broker channel, which is super awesome,
Love
and are, doing some really awesome things. And that, I love supporting that. I love supporting any woman that's doing good things with their business. It's fun to watch people be successful and do good things for other people. And that is, part of why I wanted to talk to you, because I know that you're so like that, and you have a good heart and you want to just share your knowledge and what you're doing with everyone. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for being a part of, WMN, and we're just really lucky to have you.
Oh, I feel the same way for y'all. I mean, we got to help each other. That's, if you can't help somebody, what's the purpose then, right? Like if we're helping our clients, we have to help elevate this business. And the truth of the matter is there's people out there who are not serving from a pure intention. It's all financially driven, and we have to be better than that. We have to elevate. When you know better, you do better. And so very happy to be, a mentor to somebody else. Like I've had great mentors. So
Well,
thank
thank you
you
for
for having me.
that. You're welcome. And, kindness and helping others, I really think is the bread and butter in life, and what brings you true happiness. When they do the studies, what brings you true happiness. It's helping other people.
Yeah.
That's what makes you feel good about you. And so I love that. All right. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Women's Mortgage Network podcast. For those of you that made it to the end, keep showing up, keep speaking up, and keep stepping into your power, because the industry needs more of you. And we'll be back soon with more videos, more truth, and more impact. You can support the show by hitting that like button if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribing to our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And if you haven't already done and joined the Facebook Women's Mortgage Network group, please hop onto that today.
Do it.
Type in Women's Mortgage Network. Join our group. There's a lot of great content in there, a lot of collaboration. If you have any questions, post them in there. There's so many women that want to be helpful and support you. And that's what this is all about, is bringing women together. So thank you again. Hope to see you guys soon. Bye, Liz.
Bye.